Hello friends, I told you that there was going to be other videos and this is one of them. So when I was on TikTok, there was a trend of how did you know your relationship was over, and then you would do a like a split, you know, snippet. But it was so short, I could only get out that I was told I was a horrible person. And a lot of people, mostly trolls, I guess, were like, yeah, you're a horrible person. And I realized I was a horrible person. And here is why I was a horrible person. I guess we can start off with the fact that I was living in Dallas when a situation occurred and I needed to get out. So I moved to Illinois. I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, probably because I've always been a spiritual person and I have a master's degree in theology. I took this as an opportunity to work on my relationship with my father and to help him out. However, the economy in Illinois, especially in southern Illinois at the time, was dying, and technically still is. My plans to reconcile with my father and work on a relationship did not go as planned, because although at the time I was in my 30s, my father still saw me as a 3-year-old incapable of living on my own. I did manage to get a job. However, it was not the job I wanted, because even though it wasn't a job I wanted, I feel like it was a job God wanted me to do. As my job was coming to an end, I almost got back with my ex-fiance. However, he was just so toxic, and I realized that I could not be with him. Meanwhile, I had been talking to this guy, who I'd been talking to for at least 3 years, on and off. Whenever I was single, he wasn't, and whenever he was single, I wasn't. However, this time, we were both single at the same time, and I was like, okay, well, let's start a relationship. So we started a relationship online, and it was long distance, because he was still in Texas, and I, at this time, was in Illinois. So they always say hindsight is 20/20, and looking back now, many years, I can see how I did become a horrible person, but not in the way he thought I was horrible. I grew up learning to avoid making opinions or letting my existence be acknowledged. My voice is pretty much non-existent. I love to sing, but since I sang so much, my family would tell me that their ears were bleeding or that I couldn't sing and squash it. So when I had opportunities for solos, I would be terrified because teachers and strangers would tell me, oh, you can sing and we want you to sing, but my family told me I couldn't. At that point, I couldn't distinguish between family annoyance and jokes, like versus the truth. So I avoided singing in public. I was requested to sing, and I would sing what I call solo, so low you can't hear me. I would try to get confidence in my singing, and then when I did finally get confidence, I was going to audition for an opera school, and I lost my singing voice due to nodules, vocal nodules. You know that movie Pitch Perfect, where the girl's like, I have nodes. Like, all my friends who know me always say that around me whenever my singing voice goes in and out now. They're like, she has nodes. I'm like, oh, okay, thanks, guys. You're all a bunch of jerks. But it's good, good natured ribbing. It's okay. But anyway, so since then, I've heard, after I lost my singing voice, actually, I'm not going to opera school. What am I going to do with my life? And after that, like, all my family members who were talking about how their ears bleed would tell people what a wonderful singing voice I have, and like, oh, she has a voice of an angel and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait, what? They even have told me, like, oh, when I die, I fully plan on you singing at my funeral. And I'm like, first of all, I don't think I can, because I'm going to sob. But two, why would you say that to me? Like, they actually were like, oh, well, we wish you would sing more. And I like confronted them about it. I was like, you guys told me I couldn't sing. And they're like, well, yeah, it was a joke, family's joke. I take everything at face value. I'm like, oh, I didn't take it as a joke. I really thought my family was telling me I couldn't sing. Now that I can't sing because of my situation with vocal nodules, this is why I am so supportive of other people and in making sure people's voices are heard and wanted. I tell people, sing even if you can't sing. Even if someone tells you you can't, as long as it gives you joy, do it. Unless, of course, it's murder or something like illegal, then don't do murder. Yeah. But I'm very supportive of all my friends. I'm like everybody's cheerleader. And there are times where I feel like I don't have a cheerleader, but it's okay. I can be my own, right? So I have this mentality growing up, as well as being bullied, but that's another story. That I've always yearned for love and acceptance. I always wanted someone to tell me that I was wanted, and that's probably why I enjoyed the kink community. I had always been a part, or I had become a part of that community the summer I was turning 18. So I started my journey online, on forums, and then chat rooms, and then eventually branching off into local communities and offline, or what's known as IRL, in real life, of course. I've been extremely blessed to find people who are very helpful and very into guiding. However, I know there are bad people in the community, and the community tries its best to police its own. However, there are some crazy people who manage to slip through the cracks and give the rest of us a bad name. So as I was looking to leave Illinois, I found this guy again in the community, and he offered, let's start a relationship. He came to Illinois pretty much so we can see if we were attracted to each other and to see if there could be a relationship. And okay, here's where I started to become a horrible person. I so desperately wanted to leave that I was willing just to fall in love right away, and I did. I guess I wouldn't say love, it was more like I fell in lust. I decided to give it a try, and I moved back to Texas. I was happy to be back in Texas. He was very nice at first and understanding, and told me to relax a little bit and take my time looking for a job, especially since I was going to be living in a smaller town compared to the bigger cities in Texas. I definitely wanted a job as soon as possible, and it took me a while, but I managed to find a job, and so I became more independent. At first he was supportive, but then he started acting distant. Another great thing about this relationship was that he worked out of town and out of state most of the time. So if we got on each other's nerves, then he would leave, and then we would message each other, and then he would come back, and it'd be like the honeymoon phase all over again. However, I started noticing a change in him in the fall of our relationship. He just did not communicate well. I tend to sometimes over communicate because I don't want hurt feelings, and I don't want anyone to say that they can't read my mind. So by this time, I'd become an over communicator, I guess. He would tell me everything's fine, nothing's wrong. I was just told we had an open relationship, and I was fine with that. I've been in open relationships before, as long as everybody involved knows about everybody else. Not a big deal. But at the time, I thought I was only dating him, and then by the time Christmas came around, I realized I didn't know him. His family had already started to accept me, and I hung out with them all the time. They were great, and I loved them. My family is one of those, we adopt people. Like, it's just my family's nature. We want to take care of other people, and I don't know why we do, but we're just friends with everybody until you prove us wrong, and then you're dead to us. My family had actually sent him Christmas presents, and at Christmas time, I also had gotten him something. But he didn't give me anything until we went to celebrate Christmas with his family. And he got me exactly what he had gotten his daughter, who was also, okay, this is awkward. She was also my age. So, yeah. But the thing is about the present it wasn't that it was the same thing, but it was something I couldn't use. Like, I have an issue with looking at stripes. I cannot look at them. It will almost trigger a seizure or migraine. And he got me, you guys, he got me, God, he got me a scarf that was striped. I literally could not look at it. And it was just, oh my God. And he knew that. It wasn't like, oh, he didn't know this about me. He knew this because one of his rooms has that like as wallpaper, and I could not go into that room. And he knew this. And I was just thankful that he got me a gift, but I was hurt that it was something I couldn't really use, or I felt like he wasted his money. I was more concerned about him wasting his money on something I couldn't use than realizing he got me a gift to show that he really didn't know me. It really didn't care. But whatever. It is what it is. Then he had to go away for the weekend for a business trip. And when he went, he took a bottle of wine with him, which of course I didn't really think anything because he does that sometimes because he would drink and whatever. And I was like, okay. But then there was this little nagging voice in me that's like, okay, he's going to go see someone else while he's away. And we actually didn't share the same bedroom because we had different work schedules. Also, he smoked in his bedroom. I have bad lungs. I cannot, but I did love his shower. He had the best shower. So he would leave his bedroom unlocked for me. And when I went in there, I found something that he had left out. And it was, honestly, I don't know if he left it out for me to see on purpose. I feel like he did. But honestly, knowing him, he's just an idiot. And I feel like he did it by mistake. But he left his laptop on. He had a gift out. And it said, "Thank you for being the best girlfriend ever." And I instantly knew it was not for me. We were both on the website that we had met on. And he also happened to leave that up. And I'm usually not that person to go, "Oh my gosh, you didn't sign out, and I will sign you out," because I am that person. Instead, I looked and I did see that it was a message from his other girlfriend or his real girlfriend. I honestly don't know, saying she couldn't wait to see him. And so, yeah, that's how I found out. We had an open relationship, and he didn't tell me about this other person, and it had been going on for some time. I just don't know how long, and I honestly didn't care. But by this time, because I wasn't really upset. I was more upset that he didn't tell me he was also dating someone else. Like I said, I'm kind of chill about that now at my age, after having been in a couple relationships like that and learning how to deal with it. So when he came home, it was the day before New Year's. Now, New Year's Eve is a special time for me. I am, like I said, a very spiritual person. I love New Year's Eve, and I use that time as a time to reflect on the year, and I plan for the next year, or what I hope to be the next year, So New Year's Eve, I often set aside. If I'm not with friends and family, I set aside some time for me to do reflection and meditation. So on December 30th, he wanted to talk about it on New Year's Eve, and I said, no, let's talk about our relationship now. Okay. That's when he set me down. We were in the kitchen, and he started, "It's not that you're a horrible person." No, well, yeah, you're a horrible person. And he proceeded to list everything he thought was wrong with me, everything he felt was wrong with me, and not limited to, but including my attitude on his smoking. So the man smoked, and I guess it's his house, but the problem is I have a breathing problem, which he knew about. I actually had to go to urgent care and be given oxygen because my lungs were so bad. And at first I actually just thought I maybe had the flu, but they were like, "Do you live around a smoker?" And I said, "Yeah." And they go, "Well, you really shouldn't be because it's not good for your lungs." And I was like, well, it's my boyfriend's house and it's his life. So, yeah. And they were like telling me I need to get out. And I was like, okay. But I never complained to him about his smoking. Even when I came back from urgent care, like, he didn't even go with me. I just told him that they said my lungs were an issue and I shouldn't be around smoking. And he said, oh, okay, I'll just smoke in my room. And that was it. That was legit the tone. He was like, oh yeah, I'll just smoke in my room. And okay, so technically he didn't only smoke in his room, he smoked everywhere, but still, after that he did start to smoke in his room and everything was, kind of fine. He did replace the filters, and so I was like, oh, he does care. Just the little things for me. But yeah, so not only was he mad about the whole smoking thing, which I didn't even see as an issue, and I didn't have an attitude, he proceeded to tell me that I always would tell him, well, I'm a Virgo. And I'm a huge, like I said, I believe in faith. I believe in everything has a reason. I believe that there's a reason and why we like things, and it has to do with our ancestry. I believe everything has a purpose in life, and even though I'm a Christian, I do believe in reincarnation, and I do believe in past lives. So yeah, I do believe in astrology. I am very proud to be a Virgo. I'm not a typical Virgo. I probably have all the bad traits of a Virgo, and I'm very self-critical. I overanalyze. I am lazy, but he literally said, I always tell him, well, I'm a Virgo, to everything. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I said it once, like as a joke. He said something and I was like, well, I can't because I'm a Virgo. And I laughed. And he got mad. Okay, so here's the other thing. He was always talking about how he was like, oh yeah, it's really hot when guys hit on my girl because, blah, blah, blah. Well, I was uncomfortable, and a coworker I wasn't sure if I should make a big deal about it. So I told him what happened between me and a coworker, and he was like, oh yeah, that's hot. And then he got mad and said, oh yeah, and you told me about your coworker, and then we had to go to the Christmas party, and I had to be in the same place as this coworker of yours. And he was all mad at me, and I was like, are you kidding, dude? Are you kidding? My boyfriend, who is dating someone else, gets mad at me for telling him that someone may or may have not touched me inappropriately, and I'm asking if I should get offended or just, chalk it up to a mistake, like an accident. And at that time, he was like, oh, someone's touching my girl, huh? But he was like, yeah, because you're hot. And I was like, no, I'm not hot. And then a month later, you're mad at me. I don't understand. And he told me all the ways I could fix myself, which was turning into everything he wanted me, don't talk unless spoken to and things like that. Or if I could fix things, then I wouldn't be such a horrible person. And I was like, you know what? If you don't like this, then I'm clearly not the one for you. And we need to break up. I said, since I'm living with you right now, I'm homeless. So if you could give me a couple of days to find another place, that would be super chill of you. And he said, oh, we don't have to break up. You can stay here as long as you want. I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, if we do break up, you can stay here as long as you want because I promised I would take care of you. I was like, well, thank you for letting me stay. And I immediately went into survivor mode, and I transferred to another department, and I moved all in 2 weeks. It took me literally 2 weeks to get moved into the other department. It took me 2 weeks to find another place to live, sight unseen. Even as I was packing, I told him I was leaving, and he was like, okay, I'll help you move. And he saw me lugging things to my car, and he watched me pack my car. He did not help me like he said he was going to. He watched me and he was just like, oh. And he was so wrapped up into other things that, the morning I got up, I gave him his keys, I gave him everything. And he was like, "Oh, you're leaving?" I said, "Yes." And then he proceeds to kiss me. And me being the typical, I don't know. I let him kiss me. And he was like, "Okay, call me when you move to your new city." And I said, "Oh, okay." And so when I made it, I got it. And I just, after that, I just ignored his phone calls and blocked his number. And what I realized was that I was a horrible person to myself. I realized I needed to not validate my feelings or emotions or physical appearance on what other people think. All of that is subjective, and we've been socially and culturally conditioned to believe in beauty standards of the day. I mean, I would be considered hot during the Renaissance. I personally don't look like the way I look. I do what I call mops. I do have what I call mops, and those are moments of prettiness, also known as the other mop, which are moments of pettiness. I just had to learn to accept all this, all my faults, and work on just loving myself, becoming a better, healthier me physically, mentally, emotionally, all the lees. I've decided to start dating myself so I don't have to be a horrible person to anyone else. And just learn at this point that I'm the only one who needs to love me, and that's it for me.